There has definitely been an evolution in the program and in the audience response over the last 3 years here at TOC. I think 3 years ago, a lot of the program was, what is a blog? How does a wiki work? What is social media? And I think there's a much greater comfort level with a lot of those tools that are out there now among publishers, and a real sense that this isn't a novelty, this isn't a distraction, this is a critical thing you need to understand to move your business forward. I think at the first TOC, ebooks were a small little piece of the program, and now sort of the digital transition is really at the heart of what's happening in this industry. So a big evolution that we've seen is moving from, again, that basic, what is XML, what is an ebook, into one of my favorite ones yesterday was the Ignite presentation from Peter Collingridge, talking about how do you use sophisticated analytics in your mobile apps to track reader behavior. That's really taking this kind of digital tools and what's happening with digital reading to another level. And yes, it is pushing people outside their comfort zone, but it's somewhere they need to be. We are definitely trying to push the envelope in terms of what we're doing from mobile publishing and a digital publishing perspective. Now, a big realization for us as we've started to expand into digital markets, and especially on mobile devices, iPhone, Android, is a realization that this is primarily a new market. These are sales that are coming not from customers who were buying print books before and are now buying a mobile app. The majority of these sales are happening outside the US in places where print books aren't readily accessible. And they're happening from customers and buyers who we don't normally reach. So it's a real realization that we can't think of our market and our audience the way that way we've traditionally done through print. It's not limited by the geographical boundaries of where we can ship and stock our books, and it's not limited by the number of people that we can get to come to our website. It's really about how do we attract interest and provide something worth value to someone who now is walking around, 50, 60 million people walking around the world with a bookstore in their pocket. And that's an extraordinary opportunity, and it's one that you need to step outside of where you're comfortable to understand and exploit. Yeah, when you look outside the U.S. and especially in emerging markets, there is a lot of what, at least on the surface, appears to be chaos when it comes to availability, accessibility, understanding of what there is no books in print catalog in the Arab world, for example, as Rami Habib will point out. And at the same time, what you're seeing is in places like India and China, you have millions of people who are coming to the web for the very first time, and the way they're getting there is through those mobile devices. They don't have the concept of the web is a place that you visit through a web browser on a computer. It's a place that they interact with the world around them through this mobile device. And so I think in many ways what you'll see in these emerging markets is, in the same way that many of them skipped landline telephones altogether and went right to mobile phones, you're going to see there's not much need to build out a costly and often inefficient retail print distribution infrastructure when the pieces are in place for a pretty rich mobile market. And so the question becomes, will the industry work together to provide at least the basics of coordination and metadata standards and access to information about what's on offer to make that market successful. And I was thrilled to hear several people from some of those markets who are here talk about how some of what they learned about, for example, the book server technology Brewster Kahle talked about, and the underlying standards behind that may enable a very rich, distributed, open catalog system that I think can go a long way toward creating the kind of infrastructure needed to build a robust digital marketplace for reading and for ebooks in some of these markets that haven't had that in the past. We are definitely bringing the TOC concept, really the idea that the industry needs to work together to understand what's happening and respond to it. We're bringing that concept worldwide, and we did our first international event last fall in Frankfurt in conjunction with the Frankfurt Book Fair, and they were a fantastic partner for that. And we are absolutely looking at other parts of the world where we think there's a need for this kind of information, where it's really an opportunity. Again, when you stop thinking of the publishing and the media industry as being defined by geographic boundaries, there's a real opportunity to learn from what others are doing in other parts of the world, and to bring that knowledge back here and to share what we're doing with them. So we've made some inquiries and some first looks at places like Asia. South America is a very interesting market, the Middle East. I think there's huge opportunities there, especially as they move toward more English language as the basis for their education system. Of course, India is a very, very hot market, especially for technology audience. So there's a definite interest and a need in a lot of other parts of the world where I think we can bring our message and bring what we have to offer, and of course seek to learn what we can from people who are innovating and succeeding in those markets as well.